Devin has since left the position, so you're stuck with me. I've been around for 6 months. I am a military spouse. We have been stationed here for 9 years. This is the only community that we've ever known as a military family, so it feels just as much like home to us as where we came from. I love this job. I think it is a perfect match of my love for Fort Riley and the soldiers on it, and our love for Manhattan, the community that we call home. So that is my chamber pitch. I think you should all be chamber members. I think the chamber's great, but I think that I can visit with you this morning about some opportunities to involve with the military and not betray besides my paycheck. So that said, I don't have a PowerPoint. I have some handouts. I would really like to visit with you about how you see Fort Riley in your businesses, how you would like to see Fort Riley in your businesses, and if we can maybe visit about that a little bit, and I can help you with some of the finer details of Fort Riley, and sort of you get on the base and then you don't know what to do. So, how many deal with Fort Riley in their businesses? Pretty big majority of the population. And how many deal with military families in Manhattan in their businesses? You cut their grass, you paint their house, you rent to them, you give them haircuts or massages. Do you feel that you would like to have a better, stronger, bigger relationship with Fort Riley, or are you okay with the relationships you have now? Bigger? Bigger? Do you feel that there is pushback from Fort Riley and the community there to be involved in Manhattan? Or do you think they come here because they want to be here and they want to be a part of the community? I look at it from a personal perspective, and I sort of carry that to my professional perspective. We don't really have a place to call home, so I look forward, and I think Manhattan, Junction City has all really made it very easy to call your community where you are stationed at the time home. 9 years is a really long time to be here. It is very abnormal to be here that long. Don't tell anybody. 2 to 3 years is the norm. So you get dropped off, you're told you're stationed at Fort Riley, you have 6 months, 9 months to really get acquainted with the area. That then gives you a year and a half, 6 months, 9 months to prepare to move on to the next station. So you really have a year and a half to grab them, to make them feel like they are at home in this community. I don't think that that is as difficult or as daunting a task as people think it is. You don't have to deal with Fort Riley to be successful with the families that reside there or that work there. Fort Riley can be very finicky about who they establish relationships with. They have, it's called FMWR, and it is Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. They are the hub of how you sponsor things, how you get a banner on a fence, how you assist with events and programs. And they can be very difficult in attribution. You're a membership organization just like the Chamber is. So if I say, oh, the Military Relations Committee really wants to sponsor the Lieutenant Dan Band concert, which is a big sort of annual event in Fort Riley, they will take your money. They won't necessarily put your logo anywhere or say, hey, thanks to Advanced Property Management for sponsoring this event. They will take your money, but you have to be very careful in your contracting with them to make sure that you get the attribution for your business or your organization that you want to. MWR is very mission-centric, and though they understand the business community, they're still a government entity, so they act as such and don't really understand that if you're sponsoring it is out of the goodness of your heart as a business owner, but there needs to be a little give and take. You want someone to come to Mr. K's Cafe because they saw you sponsoring the rodeo or any of the other events that Fort Riley hosts. So if you go on Fort Riley and want to have a relationship with the installation itself, just be very sure when you work in their contracting that you are attributed for your sponsorship or your involvement. Because if you don't bring it up, unless you're a $50,000 sponsor for something, if you're a $1,000, $500, $750 sponsor, they're not as likely to attribute that sponsorship to you. There are some great opportunities on Fort Riley that are very low cost to get your own name out there so that you're not relying on MWR. Apple Days this weekend is a great opportunity to do that. They have vendor tables, the Military Relations Committee will be there. We have a number of community voices that will be there. RSVP will be there. There are some businesses that will be there. It is a very low cost, $25 to $50 to have a vending table. And Apple Days is an enormous traffic day. It is very military centric, but there are 18,500 people on Fort Riley right now. So that's a pretty big pool to draw from. If you get 10% of that, stopping by your table, taking your card, tasting your food, getting a 5-minute massage, that's still a pretty good day. And it's very low cost. They do those, Apple Days is their biggest event annually, but there are also OCSC, which is the Spouses Club. So if you have a market that gears more toward spouses than maybe husbands, OCSC is a great on-post organization that they have opened public membership. It is $25 a year, so you really can't beat that. You can go and have a vendor table at their monthly luncheons. You can help sponsor events for them. They're a great group to really get involved with. Bevan Landrum is the president of that on Fort Riley. So those are some really, there are low-cost ways to get your name out there and not have to worry about who's giving you the attribution. You can take it yourselves. To go on Fort Riley, I know Craig and I had this discussion, to go on Fort Riley and knock door to door, or to go on Fort Riley and take a bunch of pamphlets and stick them on a desk in an office is not encouraged and really not allowed. There are things that Fort Riley will issue called solicitation permits. You're still not allowed to walk door to door, but you can take your pamphlets, you can take your menus, you can take your services, and leave them in public offices on Fort Riley. The solicitation permit is at the discretion of MWR. So I will tell you that a lot of it is very political. If there is Briggs, for instance, Briggs is a very benevolent organization. Briggs pretty much owns Fort Riley. Everywhere you go, you see Briggs. They're their biggest sponsors. So if you have a used car lot and you want to sponsor something and get your name out there, you're not going to get a solicitation permit because you are in direct competition with Briggs. So knowing some of those things makes you a better, more informed seeker of business on Fort Riley. Craig and I have also talked about bringing Fort Riley into the community, some property informational sessions, some services that we provide. The chamber is I'm looking to do some seminars on hiring a hero. Some of you have seen those government resumes and they're really, really hard to translate. My husband's a tanker, and to put that in a resume is, you can shoot a main gun round, but how does that translate into the civilian world? So we are going to work with ACAP, who is the Civilian Employer Assistance Program on post, and see if we can't help bring that into Manhattan so that you feel more informed when you're looking at a resume that doesn't quite make sense, doesn't quite sound like a K-State student's resume sounds, but some of those really desirable qualities and characteristics are still in that resume. You just sort of have to know what words to look for and know how to find them. So we're going to work on that. I am also going to work on, Civics Plus is developing a new website for us, and I am planning on putting some of our seminars, our MRC luncheons, where we have speakers come and kind of give us an inside scoop on Fort Riley and how the military benefits the community, on YouTube, which would be free of charge. You wouldn't have to be a chamber member to receive those. So that's another kind of way to get some more information without having to spend a whole lot of money. The chamber base rate, I know that some of you don't have other full-time employees other than the ones sitting in this room, are $285, which sounds like a lot of money, but some of the benefits outweigh the costs. We can help you with sponsorships if you want to do an event or be a part of something or volunteer, those sorts of things. Does anybody have any specific questions with your business and how you can get more involved if you wish to with Fort Riley? Anybody?
Well, we were talking about doing possibly like a coffee.
Yes.
With like the lives and Jimmy nights where we would do like mini services so you could come in with your, your group and get your hair washed and style.
What I would suggest to you, Junction City has done this for years, and when I was an FRG leader, they did it for us. They pick one FRG, there are 137 FRGs on Fort Riley.
Okay.
And FRGs are family readiness groups, and they are groups of specific company units on Fort Riley and the families. What the main thing in Junction City does is once a month, they will allow one infinite amount, and they offer that sort of as a support thing, because again, you're offering services, but they're coming back because they like the massage or the new. So that would be what I would suggest to you. That way it's not an exclusive thing. It is inclusive. If you're the first one to request it, you're the only one to request it, you get that FRG meeting that month. I would also suggest starting with the deployed units, as those spouses have a little more leeway in their budgeting right now and are more apt to be a part of the FRG because their husbands are deployed and husbands wives are deployed and they want the information. So you're more likely to attend meetings. That would be my suggestion where to start.
And how many are again typically?
Oh, well, depending on, the Combat Aviation Brigade has much larger units than, for instance, my husband who's in armor. But you still only get about 25% of the company to participate. So if you were to do an event like that, I would say no more than 20 people you would have max. If you really pushed it and really Facebooked it and really, all of that, you could probably get 30, 35. But it depends. So many units have great participation in their FRGs, but a lot really don't. It's a lifestyle, so there's a lot of politics and crap in some of them. And the deployed ones are more likely to be involved. So 4th Brigade, Division Headquarters, and I can give you some of that information if you need it.
Why don't you explain to them how you get the first contact with someone in the FRGs?
Well, Stacy Dumas, STACIE-DUMAS, is the FRSP. She is the Family Readiness Support Program Coordinator. She would be my first call, and I have her number in my phone. I can share that with you. And I'll give you her email too. She is a good place to start. She is sort of the coordinator for all of the FRGs. So you're not sending out 150 emails and then getting responses and you're like, I don't know who this is. Stacy can kind of take it and direct it. If you are a chamber member, you can send them to me and I can post them on our Facebook pages and do my avenues of communication that way. But if not, you can go directly to Stacy. She's a good contact and I'll make sure I get that to you directly.
Yeah, if you need to move, go ahead.
All we see is silhouettes.
Go that way.
And stop. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for me? Anyone? Some of you gentlemen look like
You
you've
talked a little bit about the rules and regulations with not being able to do pamphlets and stuff anymore. Why don't you explain why that? Yeah, expand a little because.
So at the height of the war, there was a lot of money. You saw a lot more Fort Riley in the community. At the height of the war, there was a lot more money going back and forth. In that height and in that period of excess, there were some companies that were a little less honorable than we would like, and they really took advantage of the soldiers and their families. So as Fort Riley is drawing down and getting back to we want the complete soldier. We want the good husband, the good father, the honorable man, the person who joined the military to serve and not to get away from where they were, not to, this is the only paycheck I can pull. The military is trying to get back to that soldier that you think of when you think of a soldier. Where I'm from, we don't have a military base. And when I thought of soldier, I thought of the most trustworthy, the most honorable, the most loyal person. And you get here, and then you hear some of the community opinions, and they're not all false. So the Army is trying to get back to that picturesque vision of a soldier. That being said, when the money was coming, those guys that were just in it to be in it were the ones that were buying the cars, and people were making a ton of money off of them because they didn't know any better. They weren't educated, they weren't informed, they weren't here long enough to know who the honorable businesses were and who weren't. So we had some pretty large businesses taking advantage, blatantly taking advantage of soldiers. Some of you know about there are some legal issues with some of the businesses. So Fort Riley